Welcome to Dynasty Evaluation Show. This is John McGlynn, JohnMcGlynn75 on X, and I was out with friends till about 7 o'clock in the morning today, so it's a recovery day. And I have JT, the regular the co-host with the Mo-host, who's jumping on today. What's going on, JT? What's new?
Oh, just rookie drafts. I'm about fifth round of an IDP league right now. So waiting to see who gets to me here in about 2 picks. But just drafting.
No IDP talk here.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Is that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, Commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
JT, we are doing these division breakdowns, which is kind of going by depth chart wise. One of my favorite things to do as we go through the off season. Everything, the dust kind of settled from the NFL draft. We're looking at depth charts now. People got signed. All the free agents have been signed. This team is probably 95% of like what it's going to be for this 2025, 2026 NFL season. So now's a great time to kind of jump in there and say, man, a lot of stuff changed, a lot of stuff rotated, a lot of stuff, circumvented what we thought was going to happen. So let's go through the divisions. We went through the AFC East last week, the Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots. Now we are going to do the NFC East. So let's what do you think about this division as a whole, first of all?
A little bounce back last year. Eagles, obviously the champs. They were pretty good for fantasy all the way across the board. So if you had their players, you were pretty happy about it. The Commanders making the big jump with Jaden Daniels was huge. So as a lot of guys on that team that had been underperforming the last couple seasons picked it up. The Cowboys are going to be an interesting one. We keep waiting for them to add a bunch of people. They finally did make a trade. We're going to see if they can stay healthy and get back in this division. And then the Giants have been kind of an absolute mess here the last couple of years, but there are a few exciting guys on that team.
Yes, Jamie Perrog. What's up, guys? Thanks for jumping on, Mr. Man. Much appreciated. I like the NFC East. There's a lot of teams in here, even though it feels like they're all kind of growing together. But I mean, the Eagles are just heading above everybody else in this division. They are just I think every spot on their roster has a depth. There's not really any chinks in the armor of that entire Eagles team across the board, offense, defense, everywhere. It's unbelievable how stacked and how good they are as far as their depth charts are, their actual roster, every starting position. So it's absolutely wonderful how that's working out. So we're going to start today with the Cowboys. We're going to go in alphabetical here: Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, and Commanders. That's not really alphabetical, but we'll do it that way. So let's start with the Cowboys here. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is the man to go after here. That's he's going to get most of the workload. They added George Pickens to the roster in the offseason via trade, and then we have Dak Prescott, who got hurt last year. If you had him on your fantasy teams, like I had him in like 5 or 6 leagues, I had him and Sunshine, and my teams just dropped like face planted in the playoffs. So nothing I could do about that. But they added Jaden Blue via draft. Javonte Williams is there, and the offseason, key offseason addition anyway, which right now we're kind of 50-50 of which of these running backs is going to be the starting running back or who's going to get the load or how that works. You got my boy Joe Milton. He was traded to the Cowboys this year in the offseason also. Mr. Throw the ball 5,000 yards. Phil Maffa was drafted. And then Miles Sanders, Deuce Vaughn, Jonathan Mingo, who they traded for last year, Ryan Flournoy, that kind of stuff. And then as far as tight ends are concerned, Jay Ferguson is here, but not last year he was a Twitter darling, a fantasy darling, Twitter darling, and he kind of, I'm not going to say face planted, but I don't think he did what a lot of people had expected to when they drafted him or traded for him. So across the board, how does this? What's the glaring minus CeeDee Lamb? What are you doing at the running back position here? Let's start with that. What are you doing at the running back position here? Who do you want on this team? Are you just kind of shooting dart throws and trying to get Williams and Jaden Blue or Phil Maffa? What do you want to do at running back?
I want to avoid this team at running back if I can. I do. I just think this team's a mess. I mean, everybody's drafting Jaden Blue like he's the RB1 on this team for sure. I'm not 100% sold on that. I mean, you think he'd maybe win this job, but they didn't pick him till the 5th round. Blue's fast, the most explosive guy on this team by far. The question with him is, can he hold on the ball? Can he stay healthy? Two things he didn't do well at Texas. He does have a nice receiving profile though. So if you're in a PPR league, you'd think he would be the PPR guy. But yeah, he's going to have to mess, just going to say, can he beat out Javonte Williams? Miles Sanders now on this team as well. Is there anything left for Miles Sanders? I mean, he was kind of a nothing burger for the Panthers last year after being at the Eagles, but we've seen the last couple of years, almost anyone can be a good fantasy player if you're running back on the Eagles. So a lot of guys have struggled since moving on there. Yeah, Jamie says sign Dobbins maybe. I tell you what, if they do sign someone, I think you're going to see some people be all over him. They're going to be a player that people are going to be picking up big time and trying to add off of waiver wires for dynasty purposes. But I don't know, man. If you're drafting early, this is going to be a tough one. I don't think we're going to know who's the guy here for a while. And it could change. It could be somebody could technically win the job at the beginning of the season, and then who knows what happens once the year goes. So I'm probably only taking these guys at running back if I'm desperate and I've waited. If I'm just like absolutely waited in drafts, especially like in a redraft, if I'm waiting around on them. Dynasty wise, I don't really want any of these guys. I could take a Jaden Blue maybe, but he'd have to fall to me in drafts. There's just too many other running backs I like better. And I feel like he's only getting drafted as high as he is because of the fact that he's on the Cowboys. But success fantasy wise is going to depend on Dak. If Dak's healthy, should see a great year out of CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be interesting to see what George Pickens does here. I mean, that's the big one right now. My guy, love George. I got him on a million teams. Hopefully the Cowboys continue to throw the ball a ton, and him being the number 2 guy behind CeeDee will hopefully be a nice fantasy position for him. I mean, I think he could easily get 65, 70 catches, a little over 1,000 yards, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. So he should be solid. I mean, I guess the question right now is how much is he going to cost to acquire from somebody if you don't have him, if you want to go get him. That's probably the big question mark around Pickens at the moment. But I don't see those other guys challenging much. I mean, Jalen Tolbert's in there, Turpin, Mingo. I mean, all those are blah. I mean, they're blah. You probably don't. I mean, unless you're in a deep league. I think I've got Jalen Tolbert on a couple rosters in like deep leagues. And then, you got Ferguson. He's okay. But if you got Ferguson, you're basically
rolling
he's
the dice.
He's a middle of the road tight end. He's not going to do anything great for you. He's not going to kill you, but he's probably somewhere between 15 and 20 tight end.
As far as receivers,
I got Kevin jumping on here. Says that Pickens has safe floor as a dynasty asset. I agree with Kev. Thanks, man, for jumping on. You know what? I tell you what, if you were worried about what George Pickens was going to be with the Steelers, I think you got to feel better about being on the Cowboys. I mean, this team is going to throw the ball a ton. As long as Dak is healthy, they're going to throw the ball a ton. And you got to think that him having Dak as his QB is better upside than whoever ends up starting for the Steelers. Right now, it's looking like Mason Rudolph. But you got to think, even as the wide receiver 2 in Dallas, it's probably more upside than wide receiver 1 in Pittsburgh.
I mean, this is all the running game has to be established on the Cowboys. They can't make Dak throw 1,000 times. They can't just, throw the 2 receivers and a tight end. And I'm not sure that one running back is going to just take the lead role. I think as fantasy assets, of course, I like the idea of having Javonte Williams as my RB1. But with this draft, let's just say you needed a running back, or you trade all your running backs away. You're kind of in, I don't know what, you just need a running back. With this draft, with so many running backs in this rookie draft, what would you trade to get a guy like Javonte? What pick would it take for you to like push the chips in to get? I'm going to say the little chips in to get a guy like Javonte Williams, because you can almost get so many good running backs that are probably the same skill set, maybe even, well, yeah, let's say a reroll, because Javonte Williams is already 25 years old. I mean,
yeah, it's tough for me. I mean, I like a ton of the third round and fourth round backs you're getting in this rookie draft. So, I mean, you could move a third or a fourth rounder for them. There's a ton of guys I like sitting there. If I can get like a Woody Marks, somebody else like that, I'm in on getting some of that stuff. So I don't love Javonte. I'm not doing a lot to get him.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin says we've chased a lot of bad wide receiver twos on Dallas. Pickens is the best one we've seen here. I mean, everybody was crossing their fingers for Ryan Flournoy and just anybody to make any kind of like impact whatsoever.
Well, I mean, me and you were on Jalen Tolbert a while back.
Right.
We were like, you might as well pick him up and give him a shot. So, like, Kevin's right, man. This, like, Pickens is by far the best wide receiver they've had to pair with CeeDee. So you got to think that he's going to have a nice one. And again, because CeeDee's going to take so much attention, that leaves Pickens on the other side against the team's number 2 cornerback. So you got to think that Pickens is, I tell you what, I hate it as a Steelers fan. I love Pickens. I didn't want to see him go. I wanted him to keep him. I had a feeling they weren't going to. As a fantasy fan, like Kevin says, I think this is actually probably a move up for Pickens as far as fantasy value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kevin says this isn't the 80s anymore. Teams aren't establishing the run. Yeah, whatever. Teams have to establish the run.
I was going to say, the Cowboys have showed us they don't have to run. They can just throw the ball and play. Now, are they going to win a ton of football games doing that? I don't know. But, I mean, they're going to look good for fantasy purposes. I mean, like you said, John, a minute ago, I just don't know what to do with Dallas's running back core. It could move. It could go all up and down all throughout the season. You can see different guys playing at different times. I don't know. Like I said, if I'm like real late in the draft or I'm on a team with like no running backs and I want to throw some garbage out there to see if I can get Javonte Williams for cheap, I would maybe do that. But I'm not actively going after him. And I saw some people touting Miles Sanders the other day, and I'm like, I don't want any part of Miles Sanders, man. I don't want any part of him. He would have to absolutely be rejuvenated to do anything he did. I mean, he kind of just fell behind everybody in Carolina. If you thought if he was going to play, Carolina would have been the spot. So obviously they weren't super happy with him.
For all the people who drafted Javonte Williams, pretty high in their rookie drafts a couple years ago, had a lot of expectations. People fell in love with the thought of him becoming a 3-down back, a full-time workload guy. And he's 5'10", 222 or something like that. I mean, he's pretty big, he's decent size. Where
once he got hurt, he kind of fell off. The injury kind of got him. I didn't have him in a ton of leagues. I had him in a couple leagues where I had like a late first and I needed a running back and I took him. But I moved off him pretty quick. So I kind of lucked out in that fact that I moved off him and before his value plummeted.
Kevin just said that Javonte was fine before the injury, but the running back you want in Dallas is Jaden Blue.
I would think so. I would think just a high upside of Blue. I mean, even though they didn't take him to the 5th round, and, I've said this quite a few times about this rookie draft class. Guys were dropping because it was so deep, and teams knew they could get players later. I almost think you need to move everybody up a round wherever they got drafted. So if he went in the 5th, you got to think, hey, he would have been at least a 4th last year. I think guys in the 4th this year was a ton of them. They all would have been like 3rd rounders last year. So, I mean, if you're gonna take a dart throw on a guy, I think you got to take a dart throw on the new guy and the guy that they drafted with Blue. I mean, obviously, I told you he's the most explosive guy. I mean, he's a burner. He's got great speed. If you're going to get big plays out of somebody, Blue's a guy that doesn't need 20-plus carries a game to actually do something.
Jamie, you were going to get JT super excited with this name right now because he loves Neon Hines. Blue has Nyheim Hines upside 350 yards. Yes, absolutely. I mean, in our leagues that we play, we have a half-point PPR for wide receivers, a full-point PPR for running backs, and then a 1.5 for tight ends at the premium. So, in a premium league like that, where you can get a receiving back that's going to get a full point per catch, and receivers are not. I mean, it's a great stash. I mean, it's a second, third flex on a team for sure, even if he only gets the PPR workload and nothing between the tackles.
Well, that's my thing. Even if he doesn't get the main early down work, at least early in the season, he should be their PPR guy. I mean, he really should be. He's got
Absolutely.
by far the best receiving profile of any of those running backs. So you got to think Blue. Even if you're using him as an RB2 on your team or like a flex play, you got to think he's got a decent floor as far as getting you some points every week and not giving you a 0.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this, Javonte he's a good pass catcher also. He's not great, but he's pretty damn good. So, I don't know. I think I always go just my mind, the mentality. I think when I'm going with these running backs, I'm going to get the guy that has the goal line upside, the bigger back that can go between the tackles. But even the smaller guys are just finding their ways between the tackles nowadays. They never used to do that before. So this game is definitely changing. Like, kind of like Kevin was referring to before. These guys, it's more of about the split, the PPR aspect of the game than it is, the grinder or the be on the field every kind of play stuff. So point per carry is a big deal too. If you're in a point per carry league, obviously that's something to, consider. But for most leagues right now, PPR is kind of the name of the game, and Jaden Blue is it. So as far as our Cowboys are concerned, where do you think they're going to end up in this division?
Oh, this one's a rough one.
It is tough.
A healthy Dak helps them out. The question's they got a lot of questions on defense, to be honest with you. So, the Overshawn injury is huge. If their defense can improve, I mean, Diggs is hurt too now. Like, the question is whether he's going to play it all this year, or if he does come back, how long it's going to be before he's healthy. Man, just a tough division. Winnable games with the Giants. I mean, this Giants team isn't anything spectacular. So that's some games they can win. Obviously, struggling last year, they got a little bit of an easier schedule. I think the Commanders are going to regress a bit just because they're going to have such a tougher schedule this year than they had last year. I think the Cowboys are going to be in the mix of this division, but I just think it's going to be tough for anybody to catch the Eagles right now. They're just in that prime window. But if Dak can stay healthy, I mean, they can get some kind of a running game. They could be in the mix of this division. At least you would think a lot of these teams are beating each other up in some of these better divisions. There's a chance that they could backdoor their way into the playoffs.
Yes,
with not a great record, but getting in just because of the schedule and being able to win enough games. You can't just absolutely discount and be like, oh, Cowboys, no, they're going to be terrible again. I don't think so. I think they're going to be in the mix.
If they play average defense with the offense they have, they could shoehorn themselves in the playoffs as one of the last wild card teams for sure.
And I mean, we've seen it. Dak has struggled in the playoffs, but Dak has been pretty freaking good in the regular season when he's healthy. So you got to think if Dak can stay healthy, that he's gonna, if he's old Dak, then he should be good, and that he alone is gonna keep him in games. Yeah.
All right, let's move to the next team. So we talked about the Cowboys. Let's move to the Giants. We referred to the Giants a minute ago as a team that's kind of, they're up and coming. Got Jackson Dart, obviously the shining star in this entire team right now is Malik Neighbors. He just absolutely went nuts last year. People knew he was good, but not that good. He just turned out to be absolutely phenomenal. Drafted Scadaboo, who is the Spider-Man meme for Tyrone Tracy. They kind of both the same dudes, they do a lot of the same stuff. So then they got Russell Wilson as a backup, and my boy, Famous Jameis, is in that mix too, but I think he might be going somewhere else. I'm not sure going to keep all these quarterbacks on the roster. Theo Johnson, if you're a tight ends guy, my boy. I tried to get Theo in the beginning of the fourth round, late third of every draft last year, especially tight end premium leagues this year. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to get on the field a lot this year too, make a lot of plays anyway. Wan'Dale Robinson is kind of an I don't want to say sleeper, but he's kind of a low key, stash in your bench for talent wise or in this situation anyway. So, I mean, he's probably the second best wide receiver on this team. So you got to think at some point in time he's going to get some throws. And you got a tight end like Bellinger also, who I think is just underrated. I'm not sure why he's not panning out, but it is what it is. So Scadaboo and Tracy, this team is kind of flat, man. Like there's not too much good to say besides Malik Neighbors on this team. What do you think?
Yeah, 8 million targets for Malik Neighbors is what you're hoping. If you're a fantasy manager, you're hoping they just throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is a real nice sleeper. I've talked him up a little bit. I just think, he's a guy that people forget about. And while they can throw the ball to Neighbors a ton, they've still got to throw to somebody else at some point. So, between Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, I'd rather have Wan'Dale Robinson. Sure. There's some people think Julian Hyatt might finally get it together. I don't. I was out on him when he was coming into the draft. I didn't like him at all. I skipped out on him everywhere, and I'm glad I did. Well, Robinson's one of my favorite guys. He's just great value. I mean, people forget about him. You can get him at really good places. I've got him in a ton of throw-in trades where, I need a little bit of wide receiver depth, and I'm like, ooh, how about you throw Wan'Dale Robinson in there? And people are like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, fine. I've had people like, okay, I don't want to burn the trade because you want Wan'Dale Robinson. So, right. That's what I've done for him. I tell you what, I'm probably too much in on Cam Scatterbo. So I don't know what's going on. I think he wins that job. I just don't like Tyrone Tracy that much. He had a decent year last year. I'm just not sure that he is able to repeat that. And I also just think Scatterbo's a lot better player than Tyrone Tracy. So I'm buying that Scatterbo is the RB1 for this team this year. I'm hoping so because that's where I'm drafting him. I've been forced into the spot of taking him in the late first a couple times. I don't love that. If I can get him mid second, I really like him at 2.4, 2.5, 2.6. That's where I've seen him in most leagues, but I've seen a couple leagues where I'm in a couple 1 QB leagues where it's kind of pushed him up the board because his quarterbacks fall. And so you've had to kind of go get him if everybody goes running back heavy. I think he's the last guy. You have that top end tier, the guys going in the top 6, 7. Then I think he's really that back end of that second, third tier, depending on how you want to count GT. If you want to count him as his own tier, he's kind of the back end guy there. So for me, if I have to get running back, that's kind of where I'm going. If I'm not getting Cam somewhere in that range, then I'm waiting until typically the third round and going mid to late third round and fourth round to grab guys. But I think Bellinger is a guy to keep an eye on. I know, I've talked him up. I like him out of San Diego State. He is coming into that year 3. I think we do see a little boost from him. I think he plays. He's shown some flashes. I don't know how good he's going to be for fantasy purposes, but he's definitely a guy I either have stash or I'm keeping an eye on in case I need to pick him up on some tight end needy teams, especially if there's any kind of premium and I'm short on tight end. Then I'm keeping an eye on Bellinger. I don't really want anything to do with any of these quarterbacks outside of Dart, and I think I don't know, man. It's crazy. Draft Dart. You think they would sit him, but we've seen teams when these coaches get desperate, can they have a bad year and then still wait on Dart and still be around next year? I don't know. So I didn't love what I saw out of Russell Wilson last year as a Steelers fan. Jameis would have been the best for fantasy purposes. I mean, throwing a million picks, but he would have been great to just force the ball to Neighbors nonstop. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I'd taken Dart in some spots if I need some quarterback. If I'm, if I had a team where Russell Wilson was my QB2 or my QB3, I've been drafting Dart just in case there. But I kind of feel like Dart might be a little more of a long-term project. I don't know if you're going to see immediate returns like we did last year for a lot of the rookie quarterbacks where they looked real good early or by the end of the year, we're looking really solid. We'll see if the Giants are an absolute dumpster fire. We'll see if they force Dart into the lineup.
When they're
midway through the year. I mean, I think they are going to be. I think they're clearly the worst team in this division. Now they're getting better on defense, so I think the defense should help them stick around for a little bit. But I don't believe in this offense, like you said. Outside of Neighbors, he's the guy. I like Wan'Dale Robinson for fantasy purposes, and I'm hoping Scatterbo can do something because I'm drafting him in a lot of spots. So
it's funny.
I'm hoping he can take over.
Jeremy just said, or Jamie said, Scatterbo fell to 212 and might going for 2-step. He went in the third round in a bunch of my leagues too, and some people it's so weird because he's polarizing. He's in 110.
Yeah, people either love him or don't, and it's
right.
Certain leagues, right? You have to evaluate where you like him compared to other people. Like I have a lot of friends that love him, So they're in my leagues, like he's like not getting past like 2-1, 2-2 because I just have a ton of friends that just love him. They watched him at Arizona State and they're like, I gotta have him on my team. You know what I mean? They're literally drafting him because they like him as a player, like more than they think, okay, where's he gonna do fantasy wise? I think I have people that are drafting him just because they like him. So that's what you got to kind of look at. And again, if you're not a believer, if you don't think he takes over for Tracy and you don't think he's better than Tracy, then yeah, I can see him dropping to later in drafts. But for the most part in my drafts that I've been in about 7 or 8 so far. He's really consistently in super flex leagues been in that 2-2 to 2-5, 2-6 range is kind of where I've seen him go for the most part.
I mean, the problem with you have Scatterboo and Tracy, and then after that, the next running back is like Eric Gray or Singletary. So there's not too many.
Well, and I thought Singletary would be more of a thing on this team, and then when he kind of fell off last year and they went to Tyrone Tracy, I was like, ugh, because Singletary was one of my favorite buys last year. I thought they were going to just give him the ball a ton. I know the coaching staff likes him, but I don't know what happened in that mess.
You know what happened, JT?
Yeah,
I traded for him in my league. That's what happened.
Oh, I forgot you jinxed him. I forgot you jinxed him. That's what you usually do. But I've always been a Devin Singletary guy just because he's been underrated. I liked him when he was on the Bills. But I don't. His days might be completely numbered at this point.
Yep. Okay. Not much way to talk about the Giants here. Are you? Besides Wendell Robinson, are you trying to trade for anybody? I mean, what are you paying for Scatterboo right now if you don't have him on your team and you're looking and you think that he's going to be like the let's say 60-30-10 kind of 60% of the carries on this team?
My guess is if you didn't draft him, you're not going to be able to trade for him because whoever took him probably really likes him.
Yeah.
Unless you have a team like somebody drafted him and they need running back and you can maybe sell an older running back and a future pick for him. Mm-hmm. And they can maybe get immediate return. That's the question. Because like right now, if you're drafting him, you're drafting because you think he's the RB1 for the Giants. If you're waiting on him and he's going like you said, he's going like in the third round of a league or like late second or early third in a league, then people are like those. If you're drafting him there, you're probably going, hey, I think he sees a little bit of playing time, but I'm not for sure he's the RB1 there. Maybe he's RB2 with a chance to play or get a little RB1 upside. I don't know. So it really just depends on what I just believe he's going to win that job. So that's why I've been taking him a little earlier. Also, I am just not a huge Tootin guy. And I think you have like Tootin and Blue are pretty much the next two guys after him in a lot of drafts. So if I'm like looking at it, I'm like, man, I really want running back here. I'm typically going Scatterbo instead of waiting because if I wait or I miss out on him, I'm typically skipping Tootin and Blue and waiting and taking guys like in the mid to late third round. I'm taking like a Dylan Sampson or a Woody Marks, Devin Neal. Like those guys, those are all guys that are like should see some action, but you're assuming they're going to be a backup with a chance to play if the starter gets hurt. So, I feel like I know what I'm getting with those guys, at least a general idea. So I know that I'm not expecting him to start. I'm just hoping they get some third down play and stuff. If you're taking Scatterboo in the top of the second or early second, you got to assume you think he's going to play. Because if not, I would just go wide receiver and skip on him, right?
One of the tight ends,
wide receiver and tight end there. So
sure.
But I mean, at this point, the big question is like, can you get Neighbors? You think it's being impossible, to get him from anyone? I mean, you're gonna have to give up a ton of picks. I've seen a couple trades out there. It seems like right now, two of the most difficult players to get is Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors are like just bringing in loads in Dynasty. So it just kind of depends on whether you are good enough to get them. And you usually say, oh, sell that guy if you're on a rebuild, like you really need to get a bunch of picks. But it's like, that dude's going into his second year. Do you really want to sell an absolute stud that's going into his second year on a rebuilder just to get more picks? I don't know.
Well, we had a trade from League Neighbors in our Babies the Boomers League.
I forgot. Yes, I forgot this one went through last week.
So it went through, I think it was a week and a half ago, but League Neighbors got sent away for a package of DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Jameson Williams, and Isaiah Pacheco. That was a trade which a lot of how do you call them? A lot of gifts, a lot of wide open eye gifts or eyeballs turn into the left kind of gifts. Like, holy cow! Like to move a guy like Neighbors, I think you need a little more than that. But if Tim George wants to have a position, or I don't want to say any names, I forgot. If people want to have a,
you already read it about.
If people want to have a solid lineup and they need a couple more starters, I mean, I'm never giving up one of those unless it's like overwhelming, like 3 or 4 first-round picks, and I know they're going to be early kind of thing. I'm not doing it. I'd rather just have Neighbors. Someone's in win now is going to throw you the bag for Neighbors, that kind of stuff. So, DJ,
I don't have a lot of him. It would be tough for me to move him. It would be tough. I do have him.
It would be. I don't have him anywhere, and I'm probably not going to get him anywhere either. So. That's just how I feel. I should have made a trade to Tim George. It would have been great. I said it again. Damn it.
I know. As soon as I saw the trade, I was like, "Oh, I should have been in there." I didn't even think about asking for Neighbors. I didn't think he was been available. I should have dove in there and tried my hand. See what I.
You never know. I send these trade offers out every day, and people are like, "Get out of here! It's the worst trade ever." Blah blah. And then something goes through like that, and I'm like, "What the hell, man? I should just send more trades out."
You just never know, right? You just never know.
You never know. So we're both of us are kind of convinced that the Giants are the doormat of the NFC East anyway. So that's now we got some other teams we talked about earlier in the show. The Eagles, which I mean, you could talk about the Eagles all day long. Jalen Hurts, the tush push will continue, so there's no worries about that. Him running it in, and even with the tush push, it doesn't really hurt Saquon Barkley's value at all. So that's not I just traded for Saquon last year, and it paid off to get me a championship in the league. I just traded for AJ Brown 2 days ago, and I kind of got ripped on it. So can I tell you what I did with this trade? Because it's a full PPR league, and I got AJ Brown. I got AJ Brown. My team is absolutely stacked. It's like win now for sure, win now team. And I wanted like one more good receiver that I had above. I traded away Trey Benson, Jaden Higgins, my 26th first, which is going to be probably 11 or 12, and then my 26th second for AJ Brown. Some people are like, "Oh, I wish I would have got that in my home league." This is, I got a lot of kind of some mixed reviews. Some people were like, "I would never pay that for AJ Brown. He's not a necessity. Nobody's going after AJ Brown. He could have gotten a lot cheaper." And I got good grab, stuff like that. So Trey Benson, Jaden Higgins, and definitely a late first in 2026 and a late second in 2026 for AJ Brown. What do you think about that?
I mean, like you said, you got a stacked team there, so I'm not totally against that move. AJ Brown should be quality again, should be solid. I mean, he's a big playmaker, touchdown guy. You hope that Higgins is good, but we don't know. We don't know what he's going to be in Texas. I mean, I like him, you like him, but what is that going to equate to? Like you already said, your team's stacked. It's going to be a late first and a late second. And then I like Trey Benson, but again, what is Trey Benson going to do? Is he going to, James Conner just got re-signed. Is Conner going to be the lead guy? And Benson sees a little more run this year, but just still not a lot. So again, you're taking two hopeful assets that you like, and you're hoping they bust out, and you're taking, 2 late draft picks. So I don't mind the move on a stacked team. It might be considered a slight overpay, but I don't think so with the type of team you have. And again, the value is just on that you're hoping those guys end up hitting and where they got drafted, not in that they've actually produced, where you get the production from AJ Brown. So
this team is.
I don't mind it on a win now team.
This team is Jaden Daniels, Bijan, Saquon Barkley. My receivers are now Neighbors, AJ Brown, and Garrett Wilson. I got Brock Bowers as tight end. I got Gentry and Hampton as my flexes, and Caleb Williams as my other starting quarterback. Team's absolutely stacked.
It's a pretty good team, John. Pretty good team.
Yes, it is. My bench is pretty damn good too, but it's my best team by far. So I like to brag about that one. It's my baby.
Yep, I like AJ. I know a guy you love, Devontae Smith. Always questions like kind of where you're going to get with him. I've got him on a lot of leagues. He's one of those ones he can be frustrating. You can have big weeks at him, and then there's weeks where it just seems like Jalen Hurts forgets he's on the team. Right. He doesn't get many targets. But I think those guys are clear-cut the top 2 guys. Obviously, they went and got Johan Dotson from Philly or from Washington. Unless you're in a deep league, you're probably not rostering Dotson. I have him in a couple leagues where it's like 14-team leagues, and am grabbing anyone and everyone because I'm trying to just take a shot at somebody. But unless you're in like a deep league, you probably aren't even rostering him. He hasn't shown to do almost anything, as far as production wise. Does he hold on to that wide receiver 3 role? That's not even a guarantee that he holds on to that. We'll see what happens there. Dallas Goedert, aging guy, produces when he's healthy. But being healthy has been an issue. He's now 7 years in the league. Saquon, if you had Saquon, he probably won you a league or two, or at least got you close last year. The question is, are you going to get anywhere near that production this year? I think we're going to see it drop. I still think he's going to be really good. I just still think he ends up being one of the better backs in the league, but are we going to get 2,000 yards out of him again? We've seen those are almost impossible in the NFL to go back to back that way. So you're probably going to see a little bit of reduction in his stuff, but I still think he's solid. If you got somebody who's trying to move him off a team, go try and go get him. So I think he should be good again. I went and bought him everywhere 2 years ago. After he got hurt with the Giants, I was still in on Saquon when everybody was trying to get out on him. So, but yeah, I haven't seen a lot of Saquon trades this year. I saw more last year for people who were like, oh, I think he's done, or people were like, oh man, he's going to the Eagles. I think he could be awesome. And they were picking him up. But yeah, I don't think he wouldn't bring like CMC trade value, like when CMC had that monster year. 2 years ago, and if you wanted to trade for him, you were having to give up like 2 first minimum to get him. I don't think you could get that for Saquon right now, so I think it'd be tough. I'm guessing if you have him, you probably are holding him to see what he can do. You're probably not moving him just yet.
Yeah, I had Kenny Gainwell everywhere, and now he's gone. Will Shipley is the new backup here. What is Will Shipley?
Shipley's a nice stash. I think he's a nice stash. People kind of forgot about him last year because he didn't get a ton of playing time with Kenny Gainwell still in there. But now that Gainwell's in Pittsburgh, you think Shipley should be the guy as the backup there. So, they did pick up A.J. Dillon. Does Dillon kind of jump ahead of Shipley? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. I'm not a big A.J. Dillon guy. I never really have been. But I think if somebody dropped Shipley last year off their roster because they got injuries and they need to make some room for some people, like go pick him up off waivers. If he ends up winning the RB2 role, that's going to be a decent. We even saw last year. I mean, you can even play that guy occasionally with how much they run the football.
Yep.
He could get some touches, and then one injury to Barkley, and all of a sudden, boom, whoever ends up being that RB2 ends up becoming an RB1 really fast in fantasy if they're the guy getting all the carries in Philly. So yeah, I would definitely not mind stashing A.J. Dillon or Shipley if they're out there. Grab them and hold them for the summer, especially if you're in a league where they expand the rosters for the summer and you can pick up extra guys before the cut, and you can kind of see who's going to win that job. This is the time where I go get all those types of guys because I want to get as many of those guys that have a shot to be the backup role, and I want to grab them, put on my roster, and then if they end up losing the backup role, then I can cut them before the season starts.
My rosters are so illegal in the offseason. I have like an extra 20 guys I shouldn't have on almost every roster, and I don't care. That's the way I play it. It's awesome. Until we have to cut them down or until I have to make a waiver move and I need to be legal, then I'm just going to keep it moving, man. Absolutely. All right, so the last team in this division is the Commanders. I think the Commanders came out of nowhere last year that people really didn't take them seriously. They weren't sure about Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin was kind of, the getting older, kind of, how do you call it? I don't want to call it moniker, but like the getting older rumors. And then Brian Robinson was going to be replaced soon, and everything just kind of worked for him. They traded for Debo this year. They got Eckler's still on the team again. He serves a very purposeful role on this team. My guy Ben Sinnott is probably another year away from being relevant on this team, even though I like him. He's going to be behind Ertz, and I mean he even took some. He was behind Cole Turner in some of the situations that he actually was in before. So I like Sinnott, but I don't want to wait forever for him, which is probably stupid of me. He's only 22 years old, but this team itself, where did they come from? What happened last year that the Commanders just all of a sudden just made the playoffs and surprised everybody?
The coaching change, obviously, Jaden Daniels made a gigantic difference. They won a lot of close games. To be honest with you, I mean that Hail Mary game against the Bears. That game goes differently, and I think people look at Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels a little differently. Also, the Commanders won in the playoffs, and a lot of teams haven't won in the playoffs in a long time. So I think that really pushed people up. Just making the playoffs was nice, but they won a couple games. One game away from the Super Bowl. I think this team is definitely going to see a little regression, even though I think they're going to be good. I just think the schedule is much harder. The division should be somewhat improved with Cowboys if they can be healthy. They also get the NFC North this year, so that's tougher because they're going to get the Vikings, they get the Lions, they get the Bears, who are going to have revenge on their mind. They got the Packers. So, again, much tougher schedule there as far as getting those guys. They got because they won the division. They got, they're also playing the NFC East. So, you got the Chargers. They got the Chiefs. They got the Broncos. They got the Raiders. So,
the West.
Much, much tougher schedule this year than it was last year. I mean, the easiest games, and they're not easy games, outside of really the Giants, you would say probably the Raiders and Falcons, and the Falcons should be decent. Those and the Seahawks, those are probably their easiest 3 games. They got to go to Miami this year. So this team feels like it's going to be like a 9-8 team. Like they're going to be there fighting for the playoffs, but I would not just be like rubber stamp this team in the playoffs. I think they're going to see a much tougher go of it this year, though. I think they can be good for fantasy purposes. I think overall, I think you could see possibly, even though Daniels was great last year, we saw what happened with CJ Stroud. Teams did tape on him, figured him out a little bit, made it tougher in the year 2. I think he could see a little bit of regression. He's going for unreal prices. I seen him in startups like damn near going 1-1 in a startup, and I was like, whoa, we're really on the Daniels train. So I'm not as high on him as that. I think he's really good, but I think he's at peak value right now. It always reminds me of last year when Stroud had that huge year, and then everybody was selling Stroud for like 3 or 4 first-round picks, and then this year you can get him way cheaper because he had a down year. Terry McLaurin, again, he's a guy you could probably go out and get from somebody possibly. He's getting older. It's not like he's been spectacular. He's been a nice piece if he's your wide receiver 3 or 4 on your team. He's been a nice piece. The big question is Debo. What does Debo look like in this? Debo Samuel, can he have a rejuvenated year like he had a couple years ago for the Niners, or is he just kind of a guy now? So that's I think is the big question mark fantasy wise for this team is where does Debo Samuel what happens with him? Is he become their number 1 receiver? Is he number 2 behind McLaurin? Do they use him in a bunch of different ways like the Niners used to, or do they just strictly leave him at wide receiver and hope he busts, gets that yak and breaks plays? So that's the guy. I think you're right on Sanat. I think you're still another year away from him being anything fantasy wise. Stash him on that taxi squad in it for a second year if you're in a league where you can stash him for 2 years. I think Zach Ertz is going to be I think he will have another solid year. He came out of nowhere. He was basically free last year.
Right.
And then ended up having a nice season. And then Brian Robinson feels like a buy right now with them basically waiting until the 7th round to take a running back. Austin Eckler feels like he is right at the verge of just being completely done. I think Brian Robinson is a nice buy. If you just need some production, you don't need a guy to win your league, but you need a guy that can just get you some RB production every week. Brian Robinson's probably a nice little would be a nice guy to go get that isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg.
If you're looking to plug in let's say your first flex position, okay, would you rather have Brian Robinson or Debo Samuel as a flex in a full PPR league?
That's a great question, man.
I like good questions, JT.
Right off the bat, I'd probably want to have Robinson.
Me too.
I'd rather have the running back. I just don't know what they're going to do with Debo. You hope if you're a Debo manager and you've held on to him and you didn't sell him at his peak, that if you still got him, you're hoping there's some rebound on a new team that they'll use him a different way. That's the big question, man. I think you're either going to be super excited what you got out of Debo or completely disappointed. I just feel like this is one of those no in between seasons for him. You're like either going to be pumped because they use him like how the Niners did a couple years ago, and you're like, oh man, I got 70 something catches out of Debo, 1,000 yards, 6 or 7 touchdowns. They ran the ball with him a little bit. I got another 2 rushing touchdowns in there, and you're super stoked, or you're like watching games every week and go, is Debo even on this team? Are they going to get him the ball at all? And you're just like so frustrated. I don't know where I land on that right now. I can't talk myself into him enough to go out and try to buy him. Right. I'll just tell you that. Like, if I got him, I'm like just hoping and wishing that he's like a good flex play this year. But yeah, I definitely am not like, I don't get a good sense of, oh yeah, he's going to be legit. I should go buy him everywhere. I definitely am not feeling that.
He's a 29-year-old, going to be 30-year-old, 218-pound like gadget guy. You know, that's not going to last forever.
Like 30 for a lot of wideouts is not old, but it's like he seems so much older than 29, 30. Right. Just with the injuries have piled up and everything else. And again, we've seen it. Very few guys can go from being the gadget guy to being like true number one receivers. We've seen it happen a couple times, but like Tyreek Hill, was the gadget guy as a rookie and then turned around and ended up being a legit wide receiver one. But we don't see that very often. As soon as those guys decide they want to be like wide receiver one type of dudes, they typically don't make it. They just can't perform at that level. And I think that's where we're getting with Debo. He decided, I want to be more of a pure wide receiver. I don't want to run the ball as much. I don't want to do all this other stuff. And you're like, that's where all your value was, man. Yeah. So it's like, that's the toughie, man. Hopefully if Brian Robinson isn't, I think he's okay. Maybe they do work him in there a little more. Maybe he does get some play at running back. Maybe they do get him some carries, some different things. So hopefully, if you got him, hopefully they find some interesting ways to use them.
I'm not going to be able to afford Jay Daniels anywhere, and I don't have him anywhere either. I missed on him.
I only have him in like 2 leagues where my teams were I took over an orphan or I had like a team that was like just garbage, and I drafted in like the top 3 last year. So I think I have him. I think I'm going to have 2, maybe 3 teams I have him, and they were all like total garbage rebuild teams. Then I was picking at the top of the draft. And if I was on those teams, I swung on them. I wasn't 100% sure. I will be one of those guys that's honest. I won't say like, I was totally sold that Jay Daniels was going to be great. I was not. Yeah. I was worried about him getting hurt. He took so many huge hits in college. I was like, man, if he doesn't learn how to get down or run out of bounds, he's going to get killed in the NFL. So I was really worried about that. He didn't take as many huge hits this year as I thought he was going to this last year, but I'm still a little worried about him. I mean, he's still a pretty skinny, tall guy. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of bulk on him. So I'm a little worried about him still there. But yeah, I mean, again, you probably can't afford him. You're going to have to give up on his peak value right now. I actually should probably go out there and see what I maybe could get for him in a couple of these leagues that I'm not very good in and see if I can load up on some picks. Cause I'm quite a few, any team I have them, I'm like, I think I'm a ways away from doing anything. So I actually should probably, go out there and see what I can maybe get for him. Cause I have seen his value has been through the roof lately.
If I'm a team that is like contending and my firsts are going to be late, and I know that, which anything can happen. You don't know for sure. That's not guaranteed. But if you have a team that's super contending and you have 2 decent quarterbacks, I mean, I'd probably trade 2 average quarterbacks in a first round pick, or just for somebody who's not who needs maybe even like 3, a first and 2 seconds, or a first, 2 seconds and a third, something like that. Anything just to try and get Jaden Daniels on my team from somebody. I think it's going to be a lot more than that. But let's just say you had a let's say if you had JJ McCarthy, would you trade JJ McCarthy and 2 firsts away to get Jaden Daniels?
Ooh, probably. I probably would. Yeah,
I would too. Yeah,
I would do that, especially if you're in any kind of league that gives any kind of bonuses to running quarterbacks or any kind of PPR, like point per carry, or PPC, I should say, not PPR, points per carry league. Like, yeah, I would make that move. Not in this division, but we're going to talk about him because he got a question, and I love this guy. So Jamie says, "What's your LaQuint Allen exposure?"
Oh, yeah.
Jamie, I have to look at it, but I'm pretty sure I have him in 100% of leagues so far. I'm pretty sure I've taken him in absolutely every draft and every league I have. He is like my hammer, my last pick in every rookie draft. I'm taking LaQuint Allen. For people who are not familiar with him, former Syracuse running back. He was now in Jacksonville on the Jags. They took him in the 7th round of the draft. He's in a pretty loaded backfield there, but I love his receiving profile. To me, he's the first or second best receiving profile in this class at running back. I think I don't know if he'll do much here in rookie year 1, but I am stashing him everywhere for the future. Jamie says he's already got 5 of them. I love it. I like I said, I think I've been in, I'd have to count up my drafts, 7 or 8. I'm also in a bunch of C2C leagues where I had him in all my C2C leagues. So I've already got him on my roster. But I have LaQuint Allen everywhere. I've either drafted him with my absolute last pick in every league, or he's the first player I'm picking up off the waiver wire. He's the first guy I'm diving in and putting money down for.
Yeah, I picked him up 20 days ago. It says right here, 20 days ago. I dropped Keyshawn Boutte and picked up LaQuint Allen on my first day of waivers, and I'm like, boom. I mean, that's a huge score. That's a big as far as in PPR.
He might end up not doing anything. Like, you have to be honest, he's a 7th round running back. But I just really like his ability. I am shocked he went as low as he did in the draft. I thought he would be closer to a late 4th, early 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Him dropping to the 7th, I was a little surprised about. I have to be honest, I don't love Tootin's receiving ability. He's an okay receiver, but I think Allen, if they're going to see him in camp, they're going to see that Allen's a much better receiver than Tootin is. And I think you're going to get a chance to see Allen getting some 3rd down work, possibly in the future, if not this year, possibly next year. Jamie says Pacheco was a 7th rounder. Absolutely. I am buying that. Allen could be a Pacheco type. He's not the speed guy that Pacheco is. That was the one thing that kind of hurt Allen was NFL Combine. He ran like a 4.58, 4.6 40. So he's not a super fast guy, but I like his ability overall. Syracuse threw the ball to him a ton. They lined him up at wide receiver. They lined him up in the slot. They threw him out of the backfield on screen. So I think he's a guy that can make some noise, especially as like just a late pick. I like it.
I got him in 4 leagues so far. I got a bunch more drafts to do, and I do have him in our Red Shirts to Gold Jackets league, JT, if you're interested in making some.
I know that's one of the only C2C leagues I didn't have him in. I think I talked about him too much. You stole him from me in that league when we drafted, but yeah. I waited just a hair, 1 round too long to get him in that league, and you got him from me. I think it was the only league I didn't have him in.
I have to get all the Syracuse and all the San Diego State guys off the roster before you get to them, and the Illinois guys.
That's usually usually I'm in leagues and nobody's thinking about those guys, and I'm all over them. But then I got to remember certain leagues people know who I am. They're like, oh, he's going to take those guys. So
yes,
get all over them.
Well, I'd like to thank the Dynasty Warzone guys for letting me use their YouTube channel today. I'd like to thank JT yourself for coming on. We had a guest scheduled, and he had some family situation going on. Family's more important than any podcast we do, guys. If something's going on there, hey, I understand. Life gets in the way sometimes. Family's priority. These are just shows. It's our hobby. It is what it is. You can find my stuff on JohnMcGlynn75 on X. Also, my Dynasty Evaluation YouTube show. Look up the Dynasty Evaluation YouTube channel. And, that's kind of what I do. I'm trying to do some social media stuff. I'm just terrible at it. It just takes too long, and I'm lazy, and I like to go out with my friends too much. So it is what it is. But Warzone made the top 80 best podcasts. Warzone made the top 80 best podcasts. I think it's around 20th. Well, awesome.
Nice.
They've been around for a while.
Them let me jump on here with you as well, John. So always good to talk shop.
Yes, and we have we're going to try it. This is show number 2 of the 8-part series of all these divisions. We got a lot of time in this offseason, plenty of time to talk divisions. We're not going to rush these at all. once a week, maybe twice a week, something like that. I got to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. So I'll have all next week to talk more football whenever you guys are available. Everybody wants to jump on, let me know. JT, where can everybody find you at?
Yep, you can find me at Jtorange on the X. On there, mess around all the time. You also can find me on Fantasy and Frames. Usually Wednesday nights. We're taking this week off. There's guys are kind of resetting, figuring some things out here for the rest of the summer. So no Fantasy and Frames tonight for me, but usually I'm on there on Dynasty 365 talking Dynasty, and on Shoot the Gap talking IDP. Those are the spots. And then during hockey season, you can find me on Around the Ice there. Supposed to be having some Stu with JT Brew shows coming up here. I've been moving, doing some stuff. It's been crazy in my world of late. My schedule is all jacked. So we haven't got to them yet, but me and John hopefully going to do similar style to this. We're going to do division breakdown, but we're going to do it from what we think actually NFL betting lines for the year, over-unders, and who we like to win the divisions and all that good stuff. So we're going to break that down at some point, John. I just got to get my stuff together and I can get you on and we can hammer that out here soon. Coming up on the Stu with JT Brew.
We're hoping the Panthers close out the series tonight over Carolina. That'd be great. A lot of hockey stuff going on right now, getting close to the Stanley Cup. So we love doing that.
It's been a great hockey playoffs. It's been a great hockey playoffs. If you haven't watched hockey, I feel for you because it's been a great run here through the playoffs so far.
I want the Oilers and the Panthers in this. I know a lot of people are like, we don't want the Canadian teams. I want the Oilers and the Panthers to be on here. So in the Stanley Cup. But
yeah,
all right.
I'm pulling for. I agree with you. I'm pulling for those same teams. So
I hate that Dallas left Minnesota and became the Stars instead of. I used to like the Minnesota North Stars, and it rubs my.
I know it's like if they were the Minnesota North Stars, I'd absolutely be rooting for them.
Sure.
I don't know why. I don't know why I think that, but it's like, man, I'd root for them so much more if they were Minnesota as opposed to Dallas.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't
wait.
seem like hockey, but all right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll get the rest of these pumped out next couple of weeks or so, and then we'll look for the Stu with JT Brew, all the good stuff on Fantasy and Frames also, and we'll talk to you guys later.